Welcome to talkSPORT's The NFL Rundown, our weekly show where we look back at the biggest, the hottest stories from the weekend's action. And joining me today, NFL analyst Phoebe Schechter. How's it going, Phoebe?
Oh, it's so great. Honestly, I'm so excited. We're week 7, over and done with. I don't even know what's happening. We're coming to halfway through the season. What is this?
I know. This is the beauty and the dreadfulness of the NFL season. It's over like that, isn't it? And I feel like we need to start with Monday Night Football and potentially the team that we should all be talking about at the moment anyway, the Baltimore Ravens. They beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 41-31 on Monday Night Football. Lamar Jackson, Phoebe. I don't even know whether to ask you a question or just to say the person's name. Lamar Jackson, Phoebe. I mean, what a ridiculous performance.
He is phenomenal. I mean, from the way that he's throwing the ball right now to how he's moving in the pocket. I mean, I know early on he got sacked a couple of times. He had so much time in the pocket, but he kind of switched it on after that and just literally took off, whether using his legs, getting the ball on Derrick Henry, who we love that they brought him in. They've been able to seal multiple games with Derrick Henry, Rashad Bateman. I mean, Zay Flowers, all of them had an active role in this incredible defeat.
Where does Lamar Jackson rank in terms of quarterbacks this season so far, Phoebe?
I think that he's on an MVP year. I mean, look, he won MVP last year. He's already done it twice. He potentially, if he could keep this up, he could be a 3-time MVP. And honestly, they're on the trajectory right now to make it to a Super Bowl. And imagine a Ravens versus maybe a Lions Super Bowl, a repeat in the New Orleans Dome of when they had the blackout game. I mean, I feel like history's already set.
I feel like with Lamar Jackson as well is that, you know, you mentioned there it could be a three-peat when it comes to, MVP. This is Hall of Fame. This is Hall of Fame Lamar Jackson right now. I think the only thing that is stopping him from maybe being in that discussion right now is that postseason play, that Super Bowl. If he gets a ring, if he gets a Super Bowl ring this year, if he gets an MVP this year, retire, mate. You're in the MVP conversation. Do you know what I'm saying?
He's too much of a competitor. He would not retire. But I hear what you're saying. I think that he is phenomenal, right? What he's done for the game, the way that he is finding ways to win. You know, early on, when he first came into the league, they were trying to get him to play at running back, trying to get him to be a full-time runner. And now, you know, he's lost a bit of weight this year. His speed, you can see that. His evasiveness. I mean, some of his design QB runs, but some of his like read options where he just takes off. I mean, you cannot stop him. And he's juking people. We've seen him stiff arm people only a couple weeks ago against the 49ers. Like, he's just someone who is really next level. And his operation, we saw last week, they forced him to throw the ball, and he answered every question they gave him. And then the Bucs, a game that was coming in as being highly touted as this high offensive game, which it was, they struggled at first, but he literally just took off, and they never looked back. And that's been something that we've talked about a bunch with him is in the fourth quarter, can the Ravens maintain that? Now, they let the Bucs in a little bit, but actually it was really impressive to see what they were able to do.
And you know what? This is something that we are guilty of. Well, I'm guilty of. I'm going to say that you're guilty of it as well, Phoebe.
Sure.
Every single year.
Guilty by association.
We are so guilty, though, of overanalyzing the first couple weeks of the season, aren't we? The Baltimore Ravens, they lost that tight encounter against the Kansas City Chiefs to start the season. They go 0-2. 0-2. Ravens' season is done. They have no hope of anything. Well, they've just gone on a winning streak. And now, potentially, they might be the top or really close to the top of the power rankings right now, Phoebe.
They are at the top. I think they are at the top of the power rankings, right? Because of what they're doing offensively. There are some great special teams returns in that game. You know, we talk so much about complete football and how important that is. And then defensively, I still feel like they have moments, right? The Bucs were able to run on them. Rashad White had a great game against them. So I still think there's some elements in the run defense that they have to work on, but you've got Marlon Humphrey out there. They get 2 interceptions against Baker Mayfield. I just think that they are building in the right way. And we saw it last year with the Chiefs, where they struggled at first, but when it came to postseason, that's where they really answered those questions. And I think when you look back to game 1 for the Ravens, the criticism about them in the postseason, they went away from the run game. They went away from their identity. They did that a little bit in week 1 versus the Chiefs, right? And when you play the Chiefs, they force you to almost feel like, oh gosh, we can't do what we normally do here because of who they are. But they've reestablished themselves, and their identity is run the ball, whether it's Lamar or Derrick Henry, and then get the ball to your pass catchers when it's appropriate.
Well, look, I want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs briefly, only because they are now the only undefeated team in the NFL. Let's just use this stat, right? Patrick Mahomes has thrown 6 touchdowns this year for the Kansas City Chiefs. Lamar Jackson had 5 on Monday Night Football. Are they right now, the Baltimore Ravens, better than the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think they are. And I think they're more fun to watch. I mean, at the moment, who would you prefer to watch play football? I'm going to say the Ravens and Lamar Jackson every day. The Chiefs are still struggling on offense. Now, we saw the game they had over the weekend, and they were better. Don't get me wrong. You saw some of that Mahomes magic that we talk about so much, whether it was, a nice little pass to Travis Kelce when he's rolling out and throws it back inside. You do a bit of kind of the trickeration they love, those gadget plays they love to run. But Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are the complete package for me. And if they can keep building and they can stay healthy, right, that's the biggest thing. The Chiefs are not healthy. And this could be a totally different conversation if they had Rashee Rice, if they had Hollywood Brown, if they have all these players that they're suddenly losing. Maybe we would be saying Chiefs are above them, but right now, Ravens are above them.
Okay, well, we spoke to Ravens legend Ray Lewis about the start to their season and how impressed he's been with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson.
I'm telling you, I think the Ravens, with Derrick Henry coming there and what Lamar is doing now, I think Lamar is now, he's really starting to mature into what makes him really special. Athleticism, that's easy. He's the most athletic thing we've ever seen ever play this game. But when you talk about just maturity, I think he's starting to mature into it, which is, it's becoming poetic to watch. So I'm looking forward to it.
I've got to say as well, Phoebe, sometimes when there's matches made in heaven as well that you can kind of anticipate, oh yeah, that would probably work quite well. And then a lot of the times a player joins a team and it doesn't quite work. King Henry, man, I mean, he joins the Baltimore Ravens and people were sort of saying as well at points, he's starting slowly and then he just busts out an 80-yard run. He's the type of player who, despite being this workhorse of a player, really seems to manage to crack on every single game. And he's the type of player that if the Ravens are going to be serious contenders later on this year in the postseason, they need to rely on him.
Yeah, and I think they have to think about how they manage him. Now, he doesn't want to be managed because he just wants to be out there as much as possible. But he is an older player, and what he does, he's so physical and so fast. But you do have to think about, all right, how many reps is he getting a game? Because he is really that guy that's going to punch it in for you, whether you're talking about his toss plays outside that he takes all the way or when you're on the 2-yard line and to punch it into the end zone. He's so physical like that. And even if he just falls forward, he's giving you at least 3 yards due to his actual size. So I think bringing him in is probably one of the best offseason moves that we've seen. And they just complement each other so well. And it challenges a defense because now I have to account for this big guy who is not just physical and fast, but then I've also got to account for Lamar Jackson.
I feel so sorry for defenses just in general. I mean, it's like, right, let's just focus on one of the best rushing quarterbacks of all time and probable, future Hall of Fame running back as well.
It's crazy. And then as a defensive line, I'm thinking, okay, I have to maintain my pass rush lanes all the time because if you let Lamar Jackson out, I mean, there's so many considerations into a game plan to plan for these two. It's mind-blowing. And you just have to decide, all right, what are the hits we're literally willing to take here?
AFC feeling quite strong for me at the moment, actually. There's a few teams there that I really feel like are potential Super Bowl contenders. I mean, I'm assuming that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be on that list for you for obvious reasons. They just seem to just get it done. The Ravens we've spoken about, are those the 2 top contenders for you in the AFC?
I think they are the 2 top ones. I think we would be wrong to not bring in the Bills in that conversation. I mean, they're 5-2 right now. Josh Allen is phenomenal. You bring in Amari Cooper, you think what that relationship could look like in a couple weeks' time, especially post-bye. The Texans, I mean, they're always an interesting conversation. I mean, the Texans beat the Bills, and I still think they need to be working on their run game. They have some deficiencies they need to focus on, but CJ Stroud is performing like a 10-year vet. And again, we talk so much about when you've got a quarterback who can get things done. I think, you start moving towards the Bengals. Their offense can do it. Defensively, I don't think so. So I'd say those are kind of your top teams to be looking at right now.
Well, I feel like, Phoebe, you're sitting on the fence a little bit. I need to know. I need to know, who is your favourite in the AFC right now?
Ravens.
Ravens.
Without a doubt, Ravens.
Let's just really, really quickly touch on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well, because we focused on the Ravens there. And I want to ask you a question to do with them, purely because this was a 41-31 loss, okay, to a good Ravens team. And they're in a winnable NFC South, but I saw one fan on social media say this is the worst loss for a long time, purely because they lost 2 receivers. Season-ending injury for Chris Godwin, who's been their wide receiver 1 this season. Mike Evans out with a hamstring as well. Is this it for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in terms of being Super Bowl contenders? Were they ever Super Bowl contenders?
I don't know if I would have put them at Super Bowl contenders, but I think this is a big loss for them, right? Next week, you're going up against your divisional rival, the Falcons. That's a huge game. You've got the Chiefs after that, 49ers after that. You've got some hard games that you're going to have to play in the next few weeks. And I think they had some really great splashes against the Ravens, right? They started off fast. They scored the touchdown, got the field goal. They started to bring it back in that fourth quarter. Baker Mayfield had some really nice moves. I don't know if you saw it, the Zion McCollum fumble recovery, carrying defenders into the end zone. I mean, you can't say that the drive and determination isn't there. Their defense was playing really well. So I don't think it's the end of the road for them, but I do think this is a huge loss, and they've got till November 5th in terms of the trade deadline. So they might have to look now to see if they can bring in some extra pieces.